Damn, I gave a 6 second countdown and I think it just started recording. Or am I tripping?
It's recording now.
Oh. All right. I believe this is episode 47 of the podcast. We are here on a Saturday morning because I didn't know I had a full day long meeting until the day before. That's my bad. We do have some topics today. I think Steven, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, dude. Thanks for asking. What is it? Thursday, though, I blew out my knee in training, and so I'm no longer fighting. So that's been quite an experience to process.
Do you want to, okay, first of all, blowing out your knee obviously fucking sucks, like, just in general. But, like this is, it's like a different type of suck because it seems like, obviously, I know that you've been putting a lot into this upcoming fight. I mean, I don't know. Can you talk around that maybe?
Yeah, sure. Well, I feel like I'm in this in-between space that we might have spoken about on this podcast before. And I did mention it to you on the side as well, which is, we're by no means perfect or super proficient, but I like to think that you and I, especially over the years, have done a lot of self-inquiry and study. We talked about stoicism, we talked about memento mori, right? Grounding ourselves in managing our expectations, feeling our feelings, meditation. And so it's interesting when, it's like in class you study, but then the test comes, right? And you don't know what the teacher is going to throw at you kind of thing. And so this is like life throwing a test. And I certainly had to grapple with the feeling of loss. It's been 4 years since I've been in the ring. So this was a big comeback thing. I was going right into a 5-round title fight with a ton of eyes. Like the entire Muay Thai community was keyed in. It was a very high profile fight. And I put 6 weeks worth of everything, all my time and energy into it, and to see that kind of evaporate alongside my knee tendons was kind of interesting. But I think what comes to mind most for me is I'm usually someone who moves past things pretty quickly, but I've been trying to interrogate that a little bit more as of late, especially through the pandemic. What's the right way to process loss? I was looking back through and re-examining the 5 stages of grief, because I was telling people early on that I felt a lot of anger immediately. That was probably the first feeling that hit me. Didn't have denial, just straight anger. And, people were like, that's totally normal after experiencing a loss of something. And I didn't frame it in that way at first, that I lost something, but it made me go back to the grief framework. What is it? Denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and acceptance, something like that.
Yeah, I believe those are the 5.
Yeah. And I felt like I was
what's bargaining? Wait, so right now you say there's no anger or no denial, straight into anger, and the next stage is bargaining.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not familiar with. I haven't read a lot into the framework. I just looked at the high level structure of it, and I don't know what bargaining is. For me though, it was interesting because I shot straight to acceptance. I was angry for 4 hours because it happened at 8 p.m. and then I slept, and then I woke up accepting it. But I was like, was that too fast? Dude, that was just 4 hours, 4 hours ago. But obviously talking with people has helped me process it. And obviously doing things like having to cancel plans or pivot plans or focus on my teammates now. So, but yeah, bargaining. I think bargaining is maybe in your own mind, maybe rationalizing. It's kind of fun to try to figure out what this means without knowing what it actually means. Maybe some type of rationalization that starts to happen maybe that's what bargaining means.
Yeah, to me,
what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'm absolutely not familiar with the 5 stages of grief from like a framework. I mean, we're probably in the same boat. I mean, I've definitely heard about them, and before you listed those 5 stages, there's no way I could have listed all of them. I probably could have guessed at like 3 of them. So that's what I'm working with. But just looking at an overview of the framework, it seems like, to me, denial and bargaining is kind of like, it's almost like your story or your narrative like just got like shook in a way, and then you have to like, and then you have to like almost like come up with like a new story, and the anger is like kind of like the emotion that happens, I guess, like to process all of that, and then between the first stages 1 and 3, denial and bargaining, that's the emotion of anger. And then obviously depression or sadness is a whole nother emotion before you finally come up with a new story and you're like, all right, you know, this is like the new me. This is where I am now. This is like who I am now. And I'm not sure if it's that deep for every single time somebody loses something, but because I'm like looking at these stages, and to me 2 of these are very clear emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ones aren't as clear in terms of emotions, but it's more like rationalizing in a way.
Yeah. I actually just Googled it while you were talking, and you're very close, actually. Very close. So bargaining comes with like trying to regain control and reform, you know, like your new identity and your new philosophy by doing like, if, you know, I think there's a lot of counterfactuals, like if only. Here's some of the examples that they wrote. Like, you're trying to explain how things could have been done differently or better. Like, if only we had gotten a second opinion. If only we could have taken to the hospital sooner. If only we could have treated Aunt Nancy better. So the bargain is not one that can actually be kept, but assists in bringing more control by identifying what could have or should have been done to handle it more effectively. And if the person's religious or spiritual, they might actually just place it in a higher power, right? Like saying like, oh, well, you know, like God is figuring this out or whatever for us. And you know what's interesting? I did go through bargaining now that I look at it. Very like immediately, like my brain went immediately there. And I used to think that kind of line of thinking was not helpful as much, because for me, it starts to read a little bit more like rational explanations for things, of which sometimes they're not always, you know, like my brain immediately goes to, okay, what happened, deconstructed, like play by play, how to avoid it, how could I have seen it, who should have seen it, where did the responsibility lie, like all that kind of stuff. So interesting. Yeah.
I wonder if acceptance is like, to me, acceptance feels like both a rationalization but also an emotion too. You know, like to me, that's the only one where it's like, because I feel like denial is probably clearly not an emotion. I mean, I guess it could be you're probably feeling something while you're in denial, but it's like, to me, denial is more like in your head. It's like, yo, fuck, that didn't happen, or like, you know what I mean? Like you're not ready to accept it, so in your head, you're just kind of like, I don't know, like coming up with alternatives or, you know, something like that. Anger to me is obviously clearly an emotion. It's like, fuck, man, I'm pissed. Like, can't believe that shit happened.
Yeah.
And then bargaining is kind of like, okay, like you're saying, okay, what, like you're pissed, and then you're kind of like going through like the scenarios, and you're kind of like, you know, trying to find footing in what you could have done different, you know, like a very obvious like rationalization stage to me at least. Depression, obviously, I think is an emotion. It's like, fuck, man, I can't believe that fucking happened. And then acceptance is the only one that can, seems like it's 50-50. It's like, hey, because there's a feeling behind acceptance as well. It's like, if you accept something, then like, it's almost like a release in a way, right? But also like acceptance is kind of like, okay, this is the new narrative now. You know, this is what happened, and this is, you know, this is what comes out of the other side in a way.
Yeah.
I know acceptance is not like a feeling, but when you say the word acceptance, to me, I think once you get there, there's a very not obvious feeling, but there's like this feeling that where you know that you're there.
Yeah. No, I like where you're going with this, and I think I'm with you. I think things in our culture that are both nouns and verbs are always interesting to unpack. Like the noun verb as a thought is always fun to examine by. But I'm with you. But for me though, it feels like if you're gonna say that acceptance is a feeling, which I agree with you, and a verb, a doing, then denial is the same for me. It's just the other side of the coin. You know, like denial for me is like almost like the feeling of avoidance, like you're avoiding something or repressing something, which is definitely a feeling.
Yeah, the feeling of denial doesn't feel great. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's definitely a feeling behind denial, and that's not where you want to be.
No, it's not, right? Like,
I feel like anger feels better than denial. I mean, maybe that's
why. That's the problem. Well, it depends on the person, right? I feel like denial and anger are both self-defense mechanisms that people choose. I feel like I'm more on the denial side, and I definitely know some people that are more on the anger side, right? Like, there's self-defense mechanisms. Something happens, do you choose to kind of distract yourself and maybe avoid it, disassociate a bit, play some video games, go for a run, you know? Or do you just fucking like lash out, explode, and like act out, or go punch something, or yell at someone? You know?
Like I personally would rather be angry than like in denial. Well, I guess if you're in denial, then do you know you're in denial when you're in denial?
Well, neither. You can be. I mean, or you could not be. Right? It's a continuum of like, are you aware or unaware that you're in that state? Like the polar extremes of it are the people who are unaware, and both being fully in anger and unaware, and fully in denial and unaware. I would say are both pretty fucking bad. I would say denial might be worse for you, right? And anger might be worse for the people around you.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that society kind of like, there's a symptom of society too, where, you know, especially people repress maybe a little bit too much and hold in a little bit too much and self-isolate a little bit too much because they're like, I have to deal with this on my own, and like, yeah, I have to bear it all on my own, right? Like so.
Damn, that's kind of crazy, man, that you got injured though. Like, I'm just like thinking about it, like 6 weeks ago, when we're like, all right, the last night that you're going out for the next 2 months, like, can't drink anymore, can't, you know, anytime we meet up, like, you know, we try to lean towards healthy food, and then you're like working out 3 hours a day. I think that's how you started. You were probably doing more in the last couple weeks, I imagine. And I know like the way that your Muay Thai gym is set up, it's even though it's like an individual like training for a fight, you know, it's like a whole team of people like behind you and stuff too. So it's not just the effort that you put in, but it's like the effort that everyone puts into you. And it almost seems like this virtuous cycle where like, you know, they put more into you, you put more back. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and I know you were going up there with like, it wasn't just you fighting, right? I mean, there's probably like a couple other guys on your team that are on that fight card.
Four other fighters, and then obviously, you know, and then like my friends buying tickets and getting accommodations and figuring out their schedules. It's a lot for sure. So yeah,
what's shit, man? It hasn't even been a week since you got injured. It's only been like 3 or 4 days.
I know, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
I guess you're probably still sorting through like like this is probably an injury that like you're obviously gonna have to take care of for the upcoming months, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. You know, what's also interesting too is that, you know, at our age, a lot of things are not net new anymore. Like I've torn ligaments in my other knee, and so there's a mapping of experience and a contrast. And so, but I definitely something's definitely torn for sure. I've had a couple of sketchy steps already where I stepped just a little bit weird, and I was like, whoop, yeah, that's not a good feeling. So,
Damn.
But it's
have you
gonna
gone to
be
the doctor yet or no?
no. I'm probably gonna schedule it for next week or the week after, because yeah, this is just an aside for anyone that gets any injury, because I've gone through this a couple times now. It's kind of frustrating if you go to the doctor right away, because there's still swelling, and they try to take the most conservative approach, right? Like oftentimes when you feel like you need to go to the doctor, it's because you probably need an MRI, right? Like if it was something that you could kind of like just work through, you probably wouldn't be going to the doctor. But when you get to the doctor, your injury is probably swollen, so they can't even really do like, they wouldn't even do an ultrasound or MRI at that point, because like they were not going to see anything because it's swollen. So they'll give you a prescription to like get it down, and then they'll make you come back, and then they'll do an ultrasound, and then they'll be like, yeah, and then they'll do some diagnostics, holding your leg or arm, whatever, and they're like, okay, yeah, let's book the MRI, and then you have to get on the MRI schedule, and they go do that, and then you have to come back again where they've interpreted it. So it's like so I'm not like rushing it, like I definitely don't rush it. If you get an injury, just chill, relax, like take care of it, let it go down, and then go. So yeah, we'll see. But my timeline is pretty long. Like that's what it's starting to kind of settle in me in my being, which is like I remember it took me a year. So it took me a year to heal my left knee, and a year and a half to feel confident, like cutting on it. Right.
Damn.
I hope this one isn't the same, because my left knee was actually what they call the terrible triad of ACL, MCL, and meniscus. Those three together like make it harder to heal, because to heal the ACL, you need to be able to put weight, but the meniscus, if that's undergone surgery, you can't put weight on your knee, and then everything compounds. So I hope my right side isn't going to be as long of an outlook, but I'm definitely not doing anything for a while. Safe to say.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Damn, that's just crazy, bro.
Yeah. And because I don't think that anyone really is going to listen to this podcast, but I'm leaning towards this being a sign for me to kind of walk away from fighting, actually. So
the universe has spoken.
Yeah. The universe has made it crystal clear. Like, like my friend, he described it very funny. He's like, yeah, dude, that was like he's also a very spiritually minded person. He's like, yeah, that something that acute on a full moon, nonetheless, he's like, that's like a lightning bolt from the universe that just like hit your knee, like it was like a yeah. I don't know if you want to go into this kind of woo-woo stuff, but my friend who's like Reiki certified, and like I was talking to him about it. He was telling me that there's this like thick French book that when he was like 19, he got really interested in and got an English translation of it. And he was basically, the book tells you like, depending on what kind of injury you got and where, it's the universe telling you something about yourself, or what you're resisting, or what you need to do. And I was like, sure, why not? Like, I'd love to hear about that. That sounds fun.
Did he tell you what is a right knee injury means?
Yes, he did. So he was like, oh, I can't remember, but off the top of my head, I think like a knee injury is, it has to do with being on your knees is like what we do when we like pray, right? Or prostrate ourselves to something. So like, it's like forcing you to kneel down, right? Like, and accept something, and like surrender, detach yourself from something that you're not, right? And I was like, that's cool. Dang, like I don't know if this is real, but like that's kind of like a cool image. and and he was also like, yeah. It also depends if it's the left knee or the right knee, like because it's yin and yang based, right? So he eventually looked it up and sent me a screenshot of some of the pages of the book, and I'll send it to you if you're interested. But yeah, right side is basically yin, the feminine side or something. So yeah, and there's some more stuff. But here's the crazy part, though. Here, I will put this out there. Here's the crazy part. Okay, I have been kind of reflecting a lot on whether or not I want to stay in Muay Thai or not, right? And what it means to me and what it's done for me, and if it's still what kind of value it still brings to me. The author of that book, literally in his anecdote following the explanation, where he's like, oh yeah, like let me, now that I've explained like what a right knee injury is, let me tell you the time I injured my right knee. And he tells this story of how he started this Aikido school in France, in Paris, like this martial arts school, right? Japanese Aikido. And how when it started, it was like all great and everything. But then over time, he was starting to fall out of it. He wasn't feeling it. Like certain things have started to dissipate. And he was kind of resisting that and not kind of seeing those messages that, you know, it wasn't serving him anymore. And so, so then he got this knee injury, and that was his like sign to like move on. And I was like, bro, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I'm going through left knee issues right now. I've never gone through it before, so I wonder what that means.
Oh, let's look it up. Let's look up what your left knee is.
I mean, my injury is definitely not as acute as yours, but it's been building up for probably like the last, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, where I was like, my left knee hurts, but I think I can just play through it. And then like I'm playing through it, but then at first it was just the back of my knee. It just felt like I was swelling after every time I played. Now it's like the front of my knee, and it's the same knee. So I think like something happened to it. The back feels fine now, but now it's the front. So I think the energy, or like the not the energy, the injury, like like evolved. I don't know if it evolved or it's like getting better. But now the front of my knee cracks and shit, and just like when I jump, it feels like not to this extent, but it feels sometimes like when I land on it weird. It feels like it could hyperextend in a way. And I've never felt that before. So I'm like, fuck, like something's going on here. And then like, I think like, sometimes I like try to like, I guess like rub it to see if that there's any like anything going on in there. And it just makes all these cracking noises, and like the kneecap like kind of moves around. And
oh my God.
And I wouldn't know anything about the kneecap moving around if I didn't have another knee to compare it to. But like my right knee like feels like very, like the kneecap doesn't move anywhere. It's just like kind of like sitting there. But my left knee, I can move the kneecap around, and it makes like these little crunching noises when I do.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still like running around and jumping and shit.
I know so much about knee stuff now that you definitely need to get that checked out.
I think so.
You definitely need to get that checked out.
I was thinking about it. Maybe the university or something.
knee stuff is very much a situation of the straw that broke the camel's back. There's so many stories. It's so common. Like, I mean, super common for people to still be performing, still be at a high level, still be doing whatever it is. And they just, but there's micro tears that they've been holding on to, because knee ligaments are very interesting in that you can actually go without them if your muscles surrounding, like your quadricep and hams up top, are strong enough, right? You can compensate. I mean, there's basketball players and NFL players that have played without some of their knee ligaments, right? So totally doable, but there are micro stress tears that can just build over time, and the smallest, most innocuous thing will just snap it. Like my boss, for example, a while ago, we were at a holiday party, and he did a jump on the dance floor. Like he jumped maybe like 4 inches off, just like a little hop. And when he went down, his ACL tore.
Damn.
Yeah, you know, and there's another guy I know who's just walking to his car and he just stepped a little bit wrong, his ACL tore. But it's not because of that moment. It was the accumulation, you know. And so, yeah, I think definitely check that out because I don't think it's worth it. But here's the funny thing, and now I'm just doing kind of a seminar on my layman's understanding of knee shit. But so you imagine a knee joint, right? There's 4 tendons that basically hold it into place, like front, back, middle, left, right, right. And those are all the LCL, like CLs, right? ACL, PCL, MCL, LCL. And if you tear one of those, it's not a big deal because you can reconstruct it, right? It's not a big deal. Like if you tear that, they'll make you a new one. It'll be better than the last one. But in between your two bones here are 2 horse-shaped cartilage like sacs, horseshoe-shaped sacs. That's your meniscus, right? And they're like shock absorbers in between. And when you impinge or twist like this, you kind of rip or tear one of those. That's the one you want to be scared of, and that's the one that degenerates, and that's the one that like 99% of people are just dealing with. Like they know that there's a little pain, and they're just like, it's okay. I have this weird pain in my knee, but like if I move just right or if I just warm up, it goes away. Usually it's because there's a micro tear in the meniscus. And that's what you don't want because they can't rebuild it. Like I had one of those teared in my left side, right? It tore in 2 places. And so for this one spot, luckily they were able to just stitch it. This side, they just had to cut it out. And I just don't have that piece anymore.
Oh, so like they make it so that like there's like a little flap coming off of it or something like that, and then they make it so it's like smooth or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not perfect. It's just better than what it was if you had just left it alone.
Right. So when they do the MRI, they can look at the meniscus and they see like, oh, there's a piece of the meniscus that's torn, and so this flap is in your knee joint, and that's what's causing you pain every single time your knee compresses it, right? And now, depending on your age and depending on what the flap is like, they'll say, oh, you know what? If you do PT, you can grind that flap back down, and it's not going to be fun, but you won't need surgery. Or they'll be like, you know what? You're really young, and like, yeah, surgery is more invasive up front, but it'll give you a better outcome. So let's just go in there and trim that little thing off and stitch it, right? So yeah, you lose that piece, and yeah, you have to go under the knife, but it'll be better in the long term. So that's that's kind of like when a doctor talks to you about what you want to do with it. It's usually that's the cost benefit, like how young you are and whether or not it's one of the the CL tendons or the meniscus.
Yeah. So. Luckily or not luckily, but I don't think it's one of the CLs. Feels like it's. So yesterday I spent 5 minutes Googling this shit. I never had knee injuries before, so I never had to like Google it. Like I can tell you a lot about like ankle injuries and stuff like that, but not knee injuries. And then I was Googling like how can you tell if like the cartilage in your knee is damaged and all that shit. Yeah. And then I can't diagnose myself, but like some of it I was like, I wonder if I damaged some cartilage to my knee just based on like quick Googling. And is cartilage similar to the meniscus thing that you're talking about as a shock absorber, or is that different?
Similar. It's a little different. The meniscus, there's bone and there's cartilage around. The meniscus protects your cartilage from being ground down. So basically what happens is in old age, your meniscus will deteriorate, and then now it's cartilage on cartilage, and then it becomes bone on bone. And then when it's bone on bone,
it's like painful.
People are super fucked. Yeah. If you remember, my ex, she had bone on bone, which is why she had a lot of knee pain because it was like
that early.
It had gotten down to that level.
How does it happen like that early? Is it an age thing or is it just like genetic or?
I think it can be genetic, but also like, look, we put our kids through some crazy stuff in high school now. So I think that has. Like, I feel blessed that I didn't do a lot of high school sports, to be honest. I know a lot of cross-country people with knee issues from high school. So.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been thinking about it lately. So let's not move on from the topic, but I think it's a similar topic. So like when I play like flag football nowadays, I mean, I could still do okay. I'm not as good as I used to be, and it's very clear, but I think I'm still above average, and I think I'm still contributing to the teams that I play on. Um, but I do it a lot for like social reasons now. Like I don't like practice, like I wouldn't say at all, but like yeah, like I think 95% of my time in flag football is just showing up to the games, warming up, and going onto the field. Maybe if there was like a, I don't know, if I was supposed to quarterback like an important game, I might like try to go throw around like the day before or something, but that hasn't happened in a long time. But anyways, it's like a lot of it's like for the like a social aspect. But then obviously like with like these like little injuries, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can feel my knee kind of like doing some weird shit that I wasn't doing before. And before the knee thing, there was like, you know, like my Achilles was kind of like feeling like this weird like, so it's like injuries happen. You you know you play through them, and then like another one happens after the other one heals, and it's just like a bunch of like these little nagging ones, right? And I think I've
Yeah.
been relatively lucky compared to like everyone else in flag football, because I think most people that have played flag football, especially as long as I have, I mean, I've been playing for like, um, I mean, I guess approaching like 2 decades now. You know what I mean?
You're rolling really good for
Yeah,
flag football.
and I haven't, man, fuck, I don't have any wood near me, but like, but I mean, relative to others, I haven't been injured nearly as much. But I could feel like little things like starting to like break down, and I have to like, you know, try to do stuff to like, um, I guess like more maintenance at home, kind of like spending more time, like, you know, uh, like, like rolling on a lacrosse ball, like, you know, stretching, trying to do mobility stuff, like uh, like in my off time, you know, just to make sure everything's like loose and stuff before I show up to the field. But then like nowadays, because I'm super busy, I don't have time to do that shit anymore. So sometimes I just like, you know, come out of a, you know, a day long meeting, and then I just drive home. Maybe I take like a 20-minute nap, eat something, and then just drive to the field. And then I'm on the field. I'm like, all right, I got 5 minutes to warm up. What can I do in 5 minutes? And then and then I hop on the field and I just run around. And then so in my head, I'm like, man, fuck, like, am I like setting myself up for some shit right now? Because at this, like, if I can prevent it from happening, then you save so much. Like, there's some quote about like an ounce of prevention equals like a pound of like pain or some shit like that. I don't know the
Yeah,
quote, but
medicine.
yeah. So it like
A pound of
literally
medicine.
like I'm in the stage right now where I'm like, huh, I need to like yeah, you know the framework, the Eisenhower matrix with like there's like
Yeah.
urgent but not important things, and then there's important but not urgent things.
Yeah.
Like that preventative like maintenance shit is literally in the important but not urgent category.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like
Right.
if it ever became urgent but
And
not
important.
important, or like what urgent but important, or urgent at all, it
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
be because I fucked something up. You know what I mean? And it will take a whole lot of and of course like freak injuries like happen and stuff like that, but you know there's certain things that can be done to like um you know, like when there's like little like signs, it's like, yo, your knees started
Yeah.
cracking, and you should not make that noise, bro.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've been thinking whether or not I should like pull back on sports or take like a season and try to like heal everything up. But I've never done that before, and I don't know if I want to do that because it's such a big
Or if yeah.
it's such a big like aspect of like not just like I don't know. I feel like it's like the one thing that like touches like a lot of things that I find important.
So that's actually the big thing that I'm processing and grieving is the loss of exactly that, like community and social aspect, and identity, man. Like, you know, for the past 6 years, like I've been the guy that does Muay Thai, right? And I haven't fought for 4 years. So everyone I've met in the past 4 years, it's been like, oh, this is the guy who used to fight. That's cool. And it seems like he wants to fight again. And, you know, we can see it. And now it's like, he's never going, like, it's gone, you know? my whole community. I have an international network of people I met. You know, when I was in Thailand, I met people from Germany, from Sweden. I have friends in Australia. Like, it's such a big part of my life. So I can relate. I can totally relate. And I think that what we're talking about a little bit more is one of the reasons why athletes in general, right, have such a hard time when they retire or when they get injured. The rates, I mean, it's not good statistics for athletes who have to find a new life after, because it was such a big part. Like, their whole identity and their whole social structure is that, and that's what makes sports beautiful, right? That's what makes sports extremely beautiful, because it can give you that much. But, you know, obviously life is full of change, and we have to find new ways, I think, finding that fulfillment. But yeah. Well, so be careful, because something, you say that, right? And I know you wanted to knock on wood, but the universe is going to, like, do something, maybe, right?
Well, it's just one of those things that touches so many things. Like, what the fuck would I do if I quit, right? It's like, okay, there's definitely like a social component, right? Like, a lot of my friends play sports, and over time, like, you know, you become better friends with people that you play sports with. And then there's like, so I know a lot of people because I play sports. That's one. Second, it's fucking fun. You know what I mean? It's like, you've been doing this shit for like so long. And even if we're out there basically playing, you know, intramural adult sports for like, for like nothing, but it's fun. So that's why we do it. So there's that. It's fun. It's social. I feel like I'm decent at the sports I play. You know what I mean? So like, you know, like when you're part of a team and you feel like you're contributing, and you're like, all right, you know, so-and-so is good at this, so-and-so is good at this, but I'm good at this. And if I keep doing this and we do it together, then as a team, we will win. That's worth like a decent amount of like, I don't know. It's like the way the human's such a social animal that, like, when you can find like a fit like that, then you want to be a part of that, right? So there's that. And then there's I'm pretty sure I have like a pretty bad case of ADHD, right? But sports is the one thing that, like, so I can't start anything. So I have a very high activation energy to like start something. So for instance, if I had to go do some work, the amount, like, if I can get started on it, I get into a flow, I could probably stay in it for until I get distracted. But that amount of activation energy for me to get my ass up, go open my computer and start, like, you know, typing or some shit, it feels like a lot of the time. And I think that's what a lot of people with ADHD go through. But with sports, there's none of that. Like, you throw my ass on a football field and I'll figure it out. Like, you know, like, there's a guy like trying to, you know, catch a touchdown on me. I don't give a shit about ADHD. Like, my attention literally immediately goes to like stopping that guy from doing that. Or playing basketball, this dude's trying to put the ball in the hoop and I'm standing between them. All right, look, I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna stop this guy. Or even playing volleyball, you know, it's like split second decisions where you're literally forced to be in flow. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so sports gives you all of that just within, like, you know, you show up, like, and my ass be showing up to the games like right on the fucking dot sometimes because I'm just always late to stuff. But once you're on the field, time doesn't matter. Time passes as if it's, you know, so there's like so much that it gives that, to me, it seems like it would be really hard for me to just, like, I guess, like, take a step back proactively. You know what I mean? I would have to kind of like take a step back. I'd probably have to, I don't want to say I have to get injured or some shit, but like, but you get why, right? I mean, clearly you probably get why. You obviously understand why.
I mean, I'm shaking because of how much I love of what you said and how much it resonates. Which is why I do Muay Thai, right? Like, say everything that you just said. in the exact same way, but I don't think we should ever step away from something as beautiful as that. You know, but we should try to take care of it. And like, I think the only takeaway here is for you to go get your knee checked out. And if that doctor says some bullshit, like I'll tell you to be like, no, go get your fucking MRI, even if you don't need it, just because why the fuck not, right? So that you can keep doing that, you know. But and I think that's why the pandemic was really hard for me, right? Because I so relate to what you said, and I've been able to build a structure of habits and coping mechanisms and what have you that allow me to operate at a high level. But the foundation, the core of it, everything was built on having a sport, like in the middle of it. Like that was the floor from which everything was built. And so when the pandemic took away that, like you couldn't even, I mean, I was living in a 1-bedroom in the city with my girlfriend at the time, right? In downtown, like you weren't allowed to go outside, like, you know what I mean? During this pandemic, like I couldn't go through the elevator because I would see 5 people along the way. And then as soon as I got in the street, there's like 10 homeless people on a sidewalk that's only like, 7 feet wide. So yeah, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't even go on a run, just to remember how crazy the pandemic was. And so it was in that time where I really sat and thought about everything that you just said about, because loss makes you reflect, right? Like it's human nature to take things for granted. And then when I'd lost it, I was like, yeah, shit, what did I lose? Oh my God, I lost everything that Hack just said right now. So I love that, bro. But I do think my point is that also there will be an time where we might have to say goodbye to that sport though. We should find a new one, right? Like what, volleyball is the new thing, right? Like in our social circle, which I think is great. Isn't that a beautiful thing that volleyball, like life moves on and now volleyball is starting to kind of come up, and maybe like something else is going to come replace volleyball, right? But I think if we look forward and we see the people around us and the things that they've gone through, we can try to avoid it ourselves. Athletes are very competitive. They're all or nothing, right? They build their identity around winning. Like, I don't care who you are. If you're competitive, you still want to win. You can still have a great Kobe mindset of like, okay, I lost, but I'm going to run it back next season and I'm going to spend zero amount of energy being sad. You still fucking want to win. So I don't know, that intensity doesn't often map very well with sitting in bed doing rehab exercise on your knee, unless you do the work to transform your mindset, right? But
it'll be so, I don't know if I could do it, man. I don't think I have the capacity in me to proactively quit. Are you familiar with okay, I know you don't watch NBA, but you've heard the name Dirk Nowitzki before?
Yeah.
So he's on the Mavericks, and he's actually one of my favorite players like all time, just because of his demeanor and like the way he is as a person. And I think he's one of the only guys that's won a championship in the last like 15 years that never like joined like a super team where he like got a bunch of superstars together and then they just like tried to make a run at it. He literally just like built it from the ground up and then stayed in on the Mavericks in Dallas for like 20 years or something like that. So the Mavericks, and he did a lot of like cool stuff, like he would take like less money on his contracts so that the Mavericks can actually get like, better free agents so that they had a chance to compete and just things like that. So the organization took care of Dirk. Dirk took care of the organization. But then going into like his twilight years, like I think they kept him on, he basically wanted to kind of keep playing or contributing where he could. And obviously he's like a 7-foot Hall of Famer. So even like, going into like his later like 30s, you can find a spot for him on the team, and he can still contribute. But you can tell over the years he's gotten like a lot slower because he's like a 7-footer. But then after he retired, he came out and said that he wishes he didn't play the last 2 seasons. And it was kind of like the Mavericks were kind of doing him a favor. And obviously like he was like, because he's been doing him favors over, obviously the last 2 decades, like keeping him on the roster and stuff. And And he would play where he can contribute, but then he said he wished he didn't play the last 2 seasons because now it's gotten to the point where he can't move around as much anymore. Like he can't like play soccer with his kids and shit like that. And so that got me to thinking like, fuck, like, if you quit 2 years earlier, then you would still have the legs to continue, like later, like do something else later, like you're saying, transition to another sport, or I guess like run around with your kids, or just have like better functioning mobility throughout your life.
Quality of life, yeah, it's quality of life, right?
Like in general. So, yeah. But like to know what you're leaving behind, it's hard, like especially like you think about a guy like Dirk, like all these guys, everyone on his team probably looked up to him. Like his fans, like everyone in Dallas probably still wanted him to keep playing. And that's literally just like, I mean, for an NBA player, I can see why it's like, wow, and he gets paid a shit ton of money to do it too. So, but like when it comes to, let's say like myself and sports, like obviously like there's much less benefit, but the benefit is still like, yeah. Dude, yesterday I played basketball for the first time in so it's been a week, and then the last time before that was like probably like a month or 2. So it's been a long time, and so I'm definitely out of basketball shape. But when I'm on the court, I don't think, I just run. I just run, I just jump, I play defense, I try to score. I literally don't think. And then so like for that hour, I only got to play for like an hour. There's no way I could get an hour's worth of workout like that. Like if I was just like, all right, let's go to the gym and do reps of something.
Yeah, but you can't say, you can't put that limit. You know what I mean? You can't say there's no way I would have been able to get that hour, right? Like you can't say that. I want to challenge you, right? So
it would be a lot harder. I would have to find something where I lose myself into it. And with basketball, I naturally know what I need to do. Yeah. And then there's also the pressure of like, you're going up against like, there's like this whole pressure, like especially in basketball, it's like, you're on a team, somebody's relying on you to do something so that the team can win. Somebody else is like trying to fuck you up on another team. There's just like, it's just like this like little perfect, like, So so it wouldn't be nearly as easy is what I'm trying to say. Like I'd probably have to go to the gym for like 2 hours and be like, all right, fuck, I got to do this next rep.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And I hope you know that, like, who you're talking to here, right? Like, I'm a guy who takes things to the extremes, and like until I hit, like, I ran 46 miles, I dug myself in 23 degree water for 10 minutes, right? Like, I fought in Thailand, and a couple times in Thailand, I had to get sent home because the coaches there were like, you're training too hard. Like, they're like, go home, just go home and rest. You know what I mean? Like, so I totally, like, this is who you're talking to, right? But there's this concept in Muay Thai, right, or fighting, where the corner throws in the towel, right? Because athletes and the people who are actually in it, participating, cannot be trusted to look out for their own well-being. Like, it's just a known thing, right? That's why you have people around you, have coaches say, like, because in a fight, you are never going to give up. Like, you've been drilling into your mind and soul to never give up on anything. It doesn't matter how like minuscule it is, you're not going to fucking give up, right? Like, and so when a coach sees that, like, holy shit, my guy's getting fucked up, and like I want him to be able to go back and hug his, kids, whatever, they throw in the towel. Live and fight another day, right? It doesn't mean like it's over. It just means like, look, this is just one match. It's like, it doesn't matter how big you think this one match is. It's just one match. Like, you can come back and fight another one. And so, I know, like, I don't ever like to be in a position of telling people what to do, whatever, but having blown out 2 knees now and, you're my friend, and also knowing that, like, I'm someone who doesn't like, can't pull myself away from things, like, just at least don't use like, the language of, I'll never find another hour or any activity that could like substitute, and the sports that I have and how much value they bring. Because that's how I felt about Muay Thai, right? And I'm going through that live. I'm like, because I was like, how will I ever find anything that replaces what Muay Thai, the flow state that Muay Thai gives for me, right? Like of course, like I love all these different sports and everything, but like, man, I need the adrenaline of someone trying to hit me in the face, you know? Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, not that I'll never, because I see certain like sports or activities that I might be able to transition to where I'm like, oh, dude, rock climbing seems like it might be dope. You know, if I just like, you know, did that twice a week or something like that I don't know, if I did that twice a week for like a quarter, then I'd probably get pretty decent at it in a short period of time. Or a lot of my friends are golfing nowadays. You know, golfing seems like
a lot of injuries in golf.
Oh, are there?
Yeah, a lot.
Damn, really? How do people get injured in golf? Is it because like you're swinging like your fucking arm as hard as you can and your whole body twisted and shit like that?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. People get injuries pitching a baseball and throwing a football, right? Now imagine you optimizing for just that one thing like over and over. You know. So,
but golf is one of those things that that people play into like old age. Like you can keep playing that a whole lot easier than you can.
Right. Yeah.
Like
fair,
basketball
fair.
or some shit.
Yeah.
Let me think what else. Yeah, I don't know, man, dude. I was playing flag football last week, and this dude that I've played with for like probably like 15 years ago, this guy was like fucking 40, and I happened to play him like last Thursday, and he recognized me, and I recognized him. I'm like, holy shit, dude, you're fucking still playing? And he's like 50. He's probably got to be at least 53, 55 or some shit like that now, and he's running around there playing quarterback still, like pretty fucking fast. And I'm just like, damn, man, am I gonna? There's no way I could fucking do that. But I
totally can.
I'm definitely old for my age in flag football, but this guy's literally got like a decade and a half on me at least.
That's crazy, man.
Which is like insane, right? And there's guys on my team. I'm not even the oldest guy on my Thursday team. I have two guys on my team that are older than me, and they're probably both better than me as well in terms of like the value they bring to the team. So I don't know, man. It's just I've never been the guy to proactively do things. Just in general.
That's a fair statement. I will say one thing that might be interesting for you to think about. And by no means do I fucking hope any of this happens to you, but I considered myself always a pretty body aware person in a lot of ways. I don't need to unpack that here, but it wasn't until I got like injured, like my first significant injury, that I actually feel like I unlocked in a completely new dimension of body awareness, and that was like a gift in a sense, right? And I credit a lot of my stuff to it, right? You know, a lot of times people ask me, why did I do Muay Thai? I give them a lot of answers, but the one answer I give often is the fact that I tore my knee playing flag football. And I was trying to rehab it because I understood what activity is going to like properly reinforce all of my joints. And I chose Muay Thai because of the footwork, because of like the forced exertion through a joint, through, you know, in the kinetic chain. And that was 6 years ago. And I've been completely injury free up until now from a freak accident. Right. And I cannot imagine any situation where I would have known how my body actually works unless I got that injury. Like, no way, unless I did a full on exercise science course, like degree or whatever. And so maybe that's better, but I don't know why I said that, other than that there's so many levels to understanding your body and building like bulletproof, you know, units, that, you know, it's always there. I'd be excited to see, that constant exploration for us.
Yeah, let me know what sport you want to get into next. Maybe I'll join you, bro. once you start rehabbing from your injury.
Yeah. Sounds good. So I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but my goal has always been to be as good at yoga as I was in Muay Thai.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would just want to be so nasty at yoga, like the craziest poses. So that's one thing that I'm going to go into now. But I still need a team sport for sure. That's more social. So we'll see. Like, I actually want to join you guys in a lot of the intramural stuff, and we'll see how that goes.
I think volleyball is a good one to get into once you can get any like kind of like sound enough to like, you know, jump around and like cut a little bit.
Right.
Then I think
the other thing too is that I've also always wanted to start my own kind of Muay Thai practice studio, that I want to combine Muay Thai with yoga and kind of like the exercise science stuff I mentioned. I still think, and it's been a while since I thought about this, that Muay Thai or condition like striking still conditions your body better than anything else, and it can be done in a safe way. And I want to make that, like, I want to like prove that hypothesis to people, you know, because I know that right now, since I've immersed myself so much in fighting, a lot of my friends are people like, yeah, like I'm not trying to fight, you know what I mean? But I also want to tell them, look, I actually have a fully thought out formula for a longevity based Muay Thai program. You know, it literally came for me because I remember throwing like a punch in the air like this, and my elbow hyperextended, and my rotator cuff felt weird, and my lat was tight, and I was like, why does that hurt so much if I just go like this, right? And if you think about it, every limb you can exert force through an open kinetic chain, right? In all directions, and if you do that, you've just reinforced this entire thing. You know, like if you think like your elbow, if you keep pushing force through that, but in a 1,000 reps in a small incremental way, that elbow joint eventually becomes fucking like solid. Now, not causing stress tears, because when I was talking about golf, right, a lot of people or tennis elbow, right? I'm not like, it's very important that you don't actually get to that point where you get tears because you're doing like too many. But I would really love to do something like that, because one, it's like helping my like people heal, like actually become anti-fragile, right? And like injury resistant. And I don't think anyone's ever thought of that before. I don't think. You know, there's Muay Thai fighters. There's a Muay Thai fighter who's 40 something right now, who's still fighting people half his age and beating them. It's insane. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I do agree with you in Western, like, I guess like, there's like a lot of ideas around like weight training, going in the gym, like getting stronger that way. Yeah. I think that there probably is something to be said. There's a whole space about like, I guess like a whole like unexplored space about like how to use your body as a whole, like how to make it like, so it's like a more holistic thing as opposed to just making it like stronger and stuff that probably hasn't been studied. And it does seem like you probably have discovered something around, I guess like open chain force exertion, and you can kind of see how that gets your body to like more so move as a whole, as opposed to going to the gym and doing like, you know, bench press, bicep curls, and, you know, and like even like squats and stuff is only like this one like movement. It is probably a very functional movement, and it's probably useful to be able to, you know, do that properly over time, of course, but there's something that is not working out, you know. Yeah, but I'm sure there's I mean there's obviously benefits for both, but there's like this whole area that's like unexplored in a way. Yeah. Because I mean, obviously being able to like squat a lot of weight, like especially if you can do it with the right form, there's definitely huge benefits there as far as like your bone structure probably gets reinforced, so you're less likely to have like, you know, issues like that. Obviously you look good, and it probably feels good to be fucking strong. And I'm sure it's like functional. Like when I could squat a lot of weight, I could grab the fucking ring with both hands, like relatively easily. And obviously I haven't lifted weight in a long time. So, but then like, there's something to be said about, okay, well, how do you get the whole thing to work together in a movement that's not like just like this one, like, you know, this one repetitive, like, this one plane, if you will, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's space in programming, your sport programming for all of that, everything. I honestly, I have a very inclusive view of sport training. But yeah, let's put this into the universe now, man. My goal is to be that 53-year-old dude that you mentioned. Like, my goal is to be 60, and like, people are like, what the hell? Like, how is he doing that? You know? And like, the athleticism that I want is like, I don't know if you've seen me climb a tree before, but like, I just want to be that dude that just like, yeah. Oh,
I just fucking climbing trees, bro.
Climb that tree. Yeah. Like, you know, that's the athleticism that like, I want to keep when I'm like old, you know?
No, I agree with that. Dude, that's been one of my goals for at least 10 years, where I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
like, I want to be 50, and people think that I'm like, you know, 15 years younger or something like that. And I don't know if I'm doing anything proactively to reach that goal, but that's always been in the back of my head. So I don't know. I think that's how I kind of like, maybe not like reach my goals, but like that's been in my head for like a long time.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw recently one of my friends, he's 50, and he was at a Starbucks working. I think he does like a lot of like travel, he works remotely, so he just like travels a lot, works in coffee shops. And then the post was, hey, I'm turning 50 in like 6 days. And I was at a Starbucks, and this guy came up to me, and he thought I was in his college class. The kid was like 25 years old or something.
Oh shit.
And so like basically the guy thought he was half his fucking age.
Wow.
And you know that, and so it was like a cool like
validation moment.
Yeah, it was like a cool like, I mean, when you're 50, if someone literally mistakes you for like a college student, or somebody that can be half their age, then that's kind of a cool like goal to have, you know?
Yeah, totally. Which it reminds me of this other thing too, of why I started Muay Thai was, and it's very similar to the theme of this podcast, right? Like, which is, look, I wish it wasn't like this, but unfortunately, this is the way it is. I fucking spend way too much time reading bullshit, and for the bullshit that I think is helpful, I really want my friends and family to do it with me. But unfortunately, like, you know, humans, like, show don't tell, right? Nothing wrong with that. And so when I did Muay Thai, I was like, you know what, Stephen, like, of course you've been going about this all wrong. Like, of course, like, if you want people, your friends, to like listen to what you have to say and ask for your advice on things so that they can be better and be healthier, you just have to do crazy shit and publicize it and show the crazy shit you can do, right? And so that's why I started to do that on my social media. I was like, you know, I'm just going to post myself doing crazy shit. I remember one time, like, I posted like a vertical, like, you know, I was stacking up things and jumping and then whatever. And, you know, I think that that's such a great goal to have behind the scenes, right, Hack? Because, you know, as we get older, and we try to find more meaning in lives, and our communities become more important to us, that like just by existing, you are a positive force in this world, right? Because you are just showing everyone what, like, taking care of yourself, like the limits of it. Now, I did struggle a little bit where I didn't ever want what I did to start becoming unrelatable, because I found out, like, in the first 1 to 2 to 3 years that I was doing stuff, people were all about it. They were like, because they saw where I came from and I was still relatable, right? And it was inspiring. But then I started to realize, as it changed, people were like, no, that's just what Steven is. He's just like that. And I couldn't do that, right? And that, I tried to like nip that. I tried to be like, wait a minute, hold on. That's not what I want out of this. Like, that's not the message I want to come out of this. So it will be interesting, I think, to carry this forward in our lives, right? And how, like, you do things for yourself. Don't get me wrong, first and foremost, right? But you can only do so much things for yourself until you start to like examine how you could do things better for other people and how it affects them. And health, man, health is wealth. Like, is there anything that matters more? It literally makes everything better. You know, I could be sitting in a movie theater, and if I'm healthy, it's a better movie. You know?
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, let me think. I mean, it is about, so it's one of those things where it's kind of like, okay, like if I saw you go from like no Muay Thai to your first fight, then I'm like, holy shit, like that was like, how long did that take between when you,
A year.
yeah, so like I remember like a year ago, you know what I mean? But then after that first fight, and then you have like 2 fights, you have 3 fights, and then it's been like, 2-3 years, and then you went to you went to Thailand to do Muay Thai, and then you trained over there for like 9 months or whatever, and then you came back here, and then you kept training. So then like, I mean, obviously like we get really good at things like once you start getting that compounding effect of like like slightly better 1%, slightly better 1%, slightly better 1%. Next thing you know, I mean, you know how compounding works. Next thing you know, you look at this dude, and he's like, how the fuck did you get so good at that?
I'm thinking of David Goggins right now.
No, but right? I mean, and then so
but he's still relatable, right? Is he like,
get the fuck out of here? David Goggins is not a relatable dude. David Goggins is
not.
like
No,
that dude is literally like I mean, he's inspiring.
Okay.
But not in a way that like nobody thinks they can become David Goggins. Right. Like that's why he's David Goggins. He's literally like wakes up and he's like, yeah, that dude is not relatable. But he's inspiring, which is like for instance, Kobe's not relatable, but he's inspiring.
Okay.
And I do think that over time it evolves into something else. And that might not be a bad thing. Because it's still like a good thing, but it's not. It's a different level of being relatable. You know what I'm saying? Like when I see like that you went into your first fight, and I saw that you came back from a knee injury and did that shit in a year.
Yeah,
that was relatable in the sense that okay, shit, like Steven literally did this, and also like from talking to him, it seems like something that like if I really wanted to do, he could help me through it, and then as long as I just put in hard work, I can get there. But then after 3 years, like I'm like, yo, only Steven can fucking do this. I can't do that shit. But it becomes inspiring in a different way. Perhaps the questions that I ask for myself will be like, what the hell can I stick with for 3 years and get just as good at that thing that I just watched my friend do for like Muay Thai, And it's really cool to hear like the origin stories of like a lot of these things. Because I was watching, there's like a lot of like Kobe motivation clips from interviews and stuff that pop up on my feed nowadays. And he was giving an interview, and this is after he's already, I don't know if it's after he already retired, but probably towards the end of his career after he already retired. And somebody was interviewing him, and he started telling a story about the very first time. He basically told a story about when he was 10 years old, and he played in this like summer league in basketball with other 10-year-old kids. And then at the end of the summer, he cried because he literally only scored 1 point the whole summer. And it was like, a whole season of games. Kobe Bryant only scored 1 fucking point. Yeah. And he cried. And he told the story because he said after that season, he cried, and his dad, who also used to play in the NBA before him, was like, hey, listen, no matter how many points you score, like, I'll still love you. And then Kobe was like, so it's really important for parents to let their kids know that, because he said that as soon as he knew that no matter what happens, like, his dad's got his back, that's when it gave him like almost like the hall pass to like try things, to mess up at things, and to like not like be worried about it. So that's when he kind of changed his mentality. But then like when you hear a story like, yo, Kobe Bryant, when he was like 10 years old, like was playing other 10-year-old kids, and this dude only scored 1 point the whole season, then it's relatable because you're like, oh shit, like. But then if you see Kobe Bryant, like even probably like 3 or 4 years removed from that, you're probably like, man, fuck, this kid's got God-given talent.
Yeah.
In a way, which I don't know, man. It's just relatable at first, but I would say it's not a bad thing for it to evolve into something else, because it will.
Right. Yeah, I think it's well said, man. Well said. It would be good to think, constantly reflect upon, because we'll continue to get older and continue to, I think, drop more into mentor roles. Wise old guys figures. So
I feel like I'm already in like a bunch of. I'm sure you are too.
Yeah,
a bunch of mentor roles. Just like,
But I mean, imagine when we're 50 though, like, and this is all gray. Like it's the next level one. I'd say.
Yeah, man, I'm getting a lot of gray on the sides
or like,
here, bro.
No, I got a ton too. Yeah, man, that's super interesting. I love this. This is a great conversation. And it's funny because it was therapy for me, actually. Like we just recorded a therapy session basically for me in the context of me going through this loss. It's really interesting. So thank you for that. And I think I'm super inspired to keep living the best fucking life, right? And be that 56-year-old that's like amazing. Which, by the way, sorry, I posted this on my social media like months back, but you know that Vietnamese lady who's like in her like
she's like running
50s,
marathons?
60s? Yeah, she ran one marathon. She
like
ran 7
70?
marathons.
Isn't she
7?
like 70?
Yeah, she's 70. She's 70. She ran 7 marathons, one in each continent in 7 days. So she ran 1 marathon in 1 continent on 1 day. The very next day, she went to another continent, ran another marathon. And the very next day, she did it for 7 days. And I think on the 8th day, she just ran another one just to do it. Like she's Vietnamese. She's Vietnamese.
She ran a marathon in the North Pole and it was negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dude?
Dude, and she looks like a bunch of Vietnamese grandmas that I've been around for. Yeah, so that's dope as shit. That's like, I don't know if I want to be that. That's like elite. That's an elite grandma. But I want to be somewhere that's continuing.
70-year-old Vietnamese American runner.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, dude. She's my fucking hero.
We should get her on the pod.
We should get her on the pod. Yeah, 2 Vietnamese guys want to talk to you. You know what's funny, by the way? I was thinking about our pod the other day. You know, we've just been playing with our brand and we're still playing with it. It's still in the laboratory. But I was like the other day, I was like, man, maybe it's just something more like poker, boxing, and video games or something. Or like poker, boxing, and spirituality. Like, and us talking about sports today is what triggered this for me because like it's such a big thing that we share understanding of, that we extract insight from. Like it's a vehicle. Like don't get me wrong, right? Like we drop into flow state, really cool and everything. And yeah, we get a lot of benefits, material benefits, but like it's also this crazy life metaphor. Like that I do it because every time I'm done with it, like I get flooded with insights. Like insight comes from it. Like life is that, you know, like it's a lab. I use the word laboratory again. Like it's a little laboratory I drop into, and I come out with like answers and hypotheses and new experimental designs that I want to try out and shit, that tell me about people, tell me about myself, tell me about my body, tell me about like, is it not just poker, Muay Thai, and fucking spirituality? The spirituality of games. I don't know.
There's definitely some facet of spirituality within the shit that we talk about.
Yeah.
And I do think that we have a lot of the same, or not the same, but like I think we have a lot of there's definitely a decent overlap in things that we understand like on a similar level. But then I think there's also like, it's almost like a Venn diagram. There's like a bunch of stuff that you understand that like that I have no idea about, you know what I mean? And then there's also certain things that, you know, I understand that, you know, that you would have like less of an idea about. And then so that overlap.
No idea.
And then kind of like, you know, like for instance, when you talk about Muay Thai, I don't know shit about Muay Thai. I know, you know, just anything that a casual observer would know about Muay Thai. But then, like, you know, when I talk to you and I'm like, yo, like, why does this happen? Like, stuff like that. Like, it allows us to go deeper than we would be able to go on our own, just because it's like a wider view. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where where my value, or like the value that I derive from the podcast, at least, to be able to put something out there and what I think, and then have you have enough of an understanding of what I understand to be able to add something that I would not have been able to add myself. But I guess that's hopefully what most conversations are like. I guess not all conversations generally go that way, but
yeah. No, I think it's absolutely right, and it goes back to me like there's like a concentric circle of discourse, right? Like the first is like the thoughts that just rattle around in your brain, right? And then the second level circle is you start to journal it, you write it down, right? And then the third one is you talk to a therapist where, you know, they're bound by law to keep your secrets, you know, unless you're saying that you want to kill somebody. And then this like fourth one is, I think, what we're doing, where we're specifically talking to someone who's almost like there's a symmetry, like as you're talking about, in the way that we think, right? So that, you know, I used to think of myself too, because when we started to talk a lot, I was like, am I just actually choosing a comfortable echo chamber, right? I was like, you know, because we tend to see things the same way. But I was like, no, wait, 99% of my life is being challenged by 99% of my life is being around in the world where my shit's being challenged anyway. This is actually a spot where, yeah, I know we're going to fucking have a lot of the same opinions. And as long as you're aware of that, it's fine, but it also allows the space for the things that you care about to care to think about or talk about to develop further, to your point, than they would be on their own. So for me, it's very much still in the circle of self-conversation. Like I still feel like I'm talking to myself almost in this pod. And when I'm rambling, that's kind of what I'm doing and stealing the microphone. But yeah,
echo chamber.
Yeah, right.
Echo chamber. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
I wonder. I guess we're probably getting close to wrapping up, but so I had a question that was floating around in my head.
Okay.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier. What? Obviously, aside from Muay Thai, what types of things do you do that gets you into physical flow?
Mm.
And from there, I guess the extension of that question is, are there things? I think you mentioned like that perhaps like obviously if you didn't hurt your knee, then you were intrigued to join us at playing volleyball and stuff like that. But I'm wondering if there's anything on your horizon as far as like physical flow. I guess you did mention yoga as well.
Yeah, yoga.
Was there anything like currently that, because I do think that getting into physical flow at least like once a day, it probably does a lot for, like, you know, not just physical health, obviously,
Yeah.
but, you know, obviously we know that's attached to like mental health and such. And so, you know, when you obviously when you bring up the I guess the example from your life for the past 6 years, like using Muay Thai as this vehicle that kind of just tied everything together, you know, it makes sense. It's like you're probably the most like honed in while you're doing Muay Thai. Like, you know, you're focused, otherwise you get punched in the face. You know, like it's like you're pushing your body to the like peak level. Like you have to be in flow most of the time when you're doing Muay Thai, I'm guessing. Otherwise, you'll probably get smacked in the face. You know what I mean? And you're forced to do that. So I'm wondering if there's anything in your life other than Muay Thai that gives you that physical flow.
Yeah. So I don't think this counts, but I'm just gonna throw motorcycles up there. So one thing that I've realized in myself that made me different from other people, and I've had to try to find a responsible take on this, is that I'm drawn to some, like, element of danger. Like I enjoy everything. Honestly, I love everything, really, every activity. But I always want more. I'm always trying to find more. Like, it's just natural thing about me. And when there's an element of danger, I drop into a flow state that is psychedelic, right? Like, it's like, if there's danger, it changes everything. So, when I went snowboarding, I would always try to go as fast as possible, right? I would try to go off the tallest things. When I did, I was in France this past year. I did backcountry for the first time, which is freaking crazy, right? So, and when I'm on my motorcycle, right, there's obviously a huge element of danger, but I am so focused. And when I come off my bike, I'm grateful. I actually do a little prayer, like being thankful for like the fact that I survived that ride, because like I know it seems like it's crazy for people to do these risky things, but for me, it just I don't know. It has to be an element of danger, I find. So for me, I'm looking forward to things now like what is it? Oh, I'm looking forward to paragliding, which is actually pretty cool. You actually sit in a harness. You know the bottom part of skydiving where you're just floating down with a parachute, right? So basically paragliding is really cool because you go off to like a cliff or something or a mountain where there's thermals that are just naturally going by and you just let the parachute catch. And, so it's actually pretty safe actually. But it takes a lot of certification and you can do a tandem. But anyway, it's things like that, man. Yeah, things that have danger. Now, what's funny though, I want to say on the opposite side of the fence, the thing that draws me into a crazy, crazy, crazy amount of flow is long distance running, which has no danger at all because it's actually opposite. It's super fucking boring and it's super long. But I've gotten so deep in my meditation and in my flow from running, for an hour at least. Once you hit that 1 hour mark, shit gets crazy. And I tell people all the time, when you run, don't run for distance, don't run for speed, only run for time, right? Like once you have run for 30 minutes, you're like, shit, the 30-minute mark is very interesting. An hour mark is interesting. And then once you start doing like 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour runs, when I was doing marathon training, I was running like my, 17 milers, 18 milers, 20 milers. I time warp. I literally basically had a psychedelic trip. I put on my shoes and the next thing I knew it, I was done. And I walked out of this time warp. I was like, was that 4 hours? Was that 3 hours? Really? Your sense of time changes, you're talking about, we live in a world where you can't watch a video that's longer than 15 seconds, right? Like you put something in the microwave and you stop it with 10 seconds left because you can't wait the last 10 seconds. So doing the same monotonous thing for 3 hours is just, man, it's one of the craziest things I've experienced. So.
Can you still run with your knee injury, after everything gets settled?
We have to see. I'm not sure yet. Yeah, it's in the realm of possibility. But I think I might. I'm scared that I actually probably have to give up running for a bit. So I'm probably gonna pick up biking.
Yeah, because I imagine if you have to have surgery, obviously there's gonna be at least some time where you obviously can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. Can you swim?
Oh no, probably less than running.
Less than running. I don't know anything about swimming. I'm just guessing that.
Yeah, because my leg has to paddle, and if this knee joint is so.
Wobbly.
But I'll let you know. It's a great question that I want to think about. What's next, right? I feel like I'm at a buffet now because before I could only eat one thing. I was only allowed to eat one thing. I don't. If you fell off a bouldering wall and landed on the way that you're supposed to fall. Yeah.
Would that
no,
fuck up your
no.
Yeah.
That would fuck me up. Yeah,
okay, so you can't rock climb.
Yeah, I can't rock climb.
I guess you could do the other the belaying thing, the one that
yeah.
not bouldering. Interesting.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I'll probably be doing biking or remember I tried rowing. I did that rowing thing. Maybe rowing could be good too. Which is really fun. Oh man, rowing is pretty fucking dope too, dude. We can talk about that another time. I think you'd enjoy it. It's so deep. And what you have to be a part of a unit, a team. Like you have to oh man, it's crazy. Yeah. We should talk about rowing one of these days.
I feel like I need to play something where there's like a ball involved that I have to chase. I think I think I have an inherent like I think
dog.
Yeah, it's like yeah, there's like if there's a ball that I'm chasing or like some sort of like the object of the game has to be to do something with this ball. You know, like even in volleyball, it's like, okay, what you do with this ball is you try to spend 3 hits and then return it back to the other team in the most fucked up way possible. You know what I mean? Like, usually it's like you put it near the net and then you hit as fucking hard as you can at the ground. And so you view it like that way. Because like, I think I have, I guess I've played a lot of ball sports in my life. And then so like picking up volleyball, I think because I could like track the ball and like follow it around and stuff like that, it made things a whole lot easier. So naturally, like if it was a sport that didn't require that, I'd probably be going in at a deficit, or not a deficit, but I wouldn't have that edge to be able to lean on a little bit.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, all sports sound interesting to me as well, though. So
yeah.
No, yeah, that'd be dope, man. Can't wait to see what. I know you're gonna get into something. That's why I was asking the question because I was like, I know Steven's gonna get into something. I just don't know what yet. I'm just curious what's on the menu that you're considering. So
yeah, it's exciting.
That's why I asked that question.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know. It'll be exciting to see. Like, unfortunately, like my knee will probably take a long time to heal. So we have a long time to pick. So, all right.
What's the title for this podcast? Damn, dude, I need to like get better at that. We didn't really have any like one-liners today.
No, we didn't.
I don't know if we said anything funny today.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty deep. It's just sport. Sport's just so fucking great, dude. I don't know. David Goggins is relatable.
And that's why we should let trans women play sports. Maybe I'll cut that out.
Yeah.
All right, I'll think of something.
Yeah, okay.
Shit, like 2 weeks ago, I couldn't think of anything, but the last thing I said was, I'll think of the title later.
Yeah.
That became the title, so I can't use that anymore. All right, whatever, fuck it. I'll think of something.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna wrap this.
You could just write Steven blows out his knee. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah. Okay, that's probably a good one.
Because it's all click